So hi everyone. I'll just start very very quickly. So my name is Luke, Joint Chief Executive of the TSA. So thank you for coming to tonight's AGM. You may notice you can't unmute yourself. That's just because we're expecting quite a few people in today, and people may have questions and things like that. If you do have questions, there will be sections and time for that. Do feel free to pop it in the chat or raise your hand. And then you can either ask it that way directly, or we can then unmute you at that time. So yeah, we're keen to get going because there's quite a lot to get through. If more people do join, we'll let them in. But otherwise, I'll hand over to Francis, our chair, to get things going.
Thank you very much, Luke. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the AGM, and my name is Frances Elmsley. I am the chair of the TSA and also by profession a clinical geneticist working in a tuberous sclerosis clinic. So let's move on to the next slide, which just takes us through the agenda. So we're going to spend a moment or two looking back at 2024. Then we're going to move on to looking at what we've achieved in 2025 and then the plans for 2026. And Luke and Pooja are going to take us through those. Then we'll move on to Simon, who's going to present the Treasurer's report. We then have some re-elections that we really need people for. So we will be asking people to vote at that point. So if people can stay as long as possible so they can vote, we would be extremely grateful. And then I was going to talk to you a little bit about the genetics of tuberous sclerosis. It probably won't take half an hour, but I'm obviously happy to take some questions after I've given a brief talk. And as Lucas said, as we go through the agenda, there will be opportunity to ask questions. So please do get ready and put those in the chat because we'd love to be able to answer them for you. So, Luke, shall we move straight on to the next? So, first of all, in terms of business, we need today to discuss the accounts of the association for the year ended last December, and also the report of the trustees and auditors, so that's obviously encompassed in the Treasurer's report. We need to note and thank the departing TSA trustee, to elect, if we think fit, the TSA trustees. So that's Jane Rogers and Dr. Chris Kingswood, who are both current trustees. So it would be a matter of extending their term. We need to have consensus about whether we appoint Griffin Accountancy as the independent examiners until the next AGM. And we also need to authorize the trustees to determine the remuneration of the independent examiners. So those are the bits of business that we have to conduct during this AGM. And that's why we need people to stay until the end. Now to just move on to a look back at 2024. So I'm sure people will remember that we had a strategy that kicked off from 2019 to 2024. And in that strategy, we had three aims, and I'm really pleased to say that we have achieved those aims. The first aim was to reach more people. And we have done that in many different ways. And overall, there's been an 86% in the number of people in the TSU community that contacted compared to the previous year. So this is looking back at the final year of that previous strategy, so 2024. More people are contacting the support line, more people are contacting and asking for welcome packs when they have a new diagnosis of tuberous sclerosis. And as you know, the TSA continues to host multiple days to engage with the community, such as the Big Day, the Outlook, and the relatively newly formed TSC Art Club. I think the other really important thing that I'm particularly concerned with is around the reach of clinicians. And as people will know, we were able to set up the Rare Disease Collaborative Network, which when we applied for this and put it together. We had 15 clinics as part of the network. We now have 23. Now, not all of those people are actually sort of official members of the network, but we're trying to make sure that they become official members. Next slide, please. So, aim two was to drive more research. And I think it's largely due to Pooja's input here, where we have been contributing to all sorts of different trials. So just recently, the EPICOM clinical trial, which is a trial of Epidiolex, so cannabidiol use and looking at the effect on behavior in people with tuberous sclerosis, that is just getting going. But also they've been absolutely instrumental in getting the approvals for certain medicines. There's still work to do on that front because they have not been approved across the whole of the UK, but we are getting there. And then the final aim was to balance the TSA's finances, and you will hear about that from Simon in a minute. But first of all, we've achieved a second consecutive financial surplus, but we know that the path going forward is not necessarily a smooth one, so we need to be in a good place to negotiate that. And of course, that's possible due to our small team, but very diligent team. And if you want to read any more about that, then it's all outlined in the impact report from 2024. So please take a look at that. I'm going to hand over now to Pooja to take us through 2025. Thank you, Pooja.
Thank you, Francis. So 2025 is the first year of our new three-year strategy. We've continued to strengthen our support, research, advocacy for the TSC community, and we've delivered some meaningful progress across all areas of our work. Support and information, this year we were delighted to achieve reaccreditation of the TSA support line with the Helplines partnership. This is a recognition of the high quality, trusted support that we offer to TSC community and to professionals as well. We also launched a new pilot of local TSC events, bringing people together through three regional meetups and family days across Wales. And again, that helps us reach communities closer to home so they didn't have to travel too far for the peer-to-peer support. And for our clinical networks, we held the first face-to-face meeting of the TSC nurse specialists and saw record attendance at our face-to-face clinic meeting, strengthening the shared learning and collaboration that underpin good care. It's been a milestone year for research. We've launched our refreshed research strategy with input and feedback from the community, setting a clear and ambitious direction for the years ahead, and opened two new grant rounds to support high quality TSC research. We also played a key role in securing funding to repurpose metformin for TSC. Metformin is a diabetes drug, very safe. It's been around for over 50 years. And this is a significant step towards expanding treatment options. Alongside this, we are providing the Secretariat for the update of the UK clinical guidelines for TSC, ensuring they reflect the latest evidence and also include all the new treatments that have been approved for TSC since the guidelines were first published in 2019. And we are proud to be supporting two major TSC registry projects, which will help drive forward data-driven understanding of TSC. Finally, our advocacy work has continued at pace. We remain actively engaged in UK-wide efforts to secure access and approval of Hiftor, which is a topical sirolimus gel for facial angiofibromas, working closely with regulators, clinicians, and TSC community to push for equal access. So these are just some of the highlights and key achievements of the team this year. And I'll hand over to Luke to now talk us through some of the planned activities and projects for 2026.
Thank you both. So yes, in terms of next year, which has come up a lot quicker than any of us have expected, as ever, is to build on the great wins of this year and previous years as well. I suppose the main focus previously has been really driving those foundations, which are now set. We can really push on from then, based on the key achievements that have already been outlined. So in terms of support and information, we'll be continuing to grow that offering. In particular, a new welcome pack, which is going to make a really significant difference to people more perhaps new to the TSC community, but for anyone. Also launched a new website. The existing website has been very good to us, and we've gotten a lot from it. But it's well, it's sort of showing its age a little bit now. It certainly could be improved for more modern days. We're also going to be launching. The work is already well underway on this. The UK's first, I think it would actually be the world's first online accredited training modules on TSC, exclusively for clinical professionals. So GPs and primary and secondary and tertiary care providers who are perhaps less familiar with TSC to ensure greater and more equitable support in TSC care. We will continue the great work as part of the NHS TSC Rare Disease Collaborative Network, so the network of clinics which we oversee. And we expect a really significant focus on mental health and TANs, because we are told consistently that is a major focus for the TSC community. As well as that, we'll also be launching the new clinical guidelines in TSC, or at least having a very important role to play in that. Some of you may remember when the previous, existing guidelines were launched, we developed leaflets, packs, and information so people could really clearly understand what support they should expect and deserve. And we will be replicating that again and working very closely with the clinicians. And all of this really is only possible, should I say, thanks to the wonderful TSC community who engage with us. And that feedback is so important, I should say. So do please continue to tell us what we do well, things that could be improved, what the real life experience of TSC truly is, because it's only that way we can truly work for you. And then it's also only possible thanks to our fantastic and small team. So that is everything in terms of 2026. This is only sort of a whistle stop tour. Of course, it's not exhaustive. It's sort of the key points. Yeah, and we'll move over to our treasurer's report now. So I'll hand over to our treasurer, Simon.
Great. Thanks, Luke. Great. If you could just move on. So I'm Simon James. If you're currently treasurer of the TSA for the last couple of years now, and I wanted to start talking about 2004, but actually starting with the slide I finished on last year at the AGM, which was this one. So for the 2023 position, we'd balanced the books and hopefully provided a solid base for financial stability. And then we were clear that sort of the aim of 2024 was to continue to build on that, make sure that we were continuing to grow income, manage the cost base. And we'd identified that there was quite a lot of work required in 2024, particularly around figuring out why the TSA was holding reserves, how much reserve to hold would be appropriate, what should we be doing with those reserves in terms of investment, and how they should be communicated in the accounts. And then moving on to the 2025 three-year strategy that Luke and Pooja have just sort of talked through a little bit. And I almost want to start the end there and talk about the first one. So the third one on that, which is about what's happened in 2024 around the reserves and treatment of those reserves in their accounts, etc. So if you don't mind moving on, please, Luke. So a lot of work has been done, so particularly by Luke and Pooja and some of the other trustees in terms of the reserves policy and investment policy. So I spent a lot of time clarifying why the TSA is holding reserves, which primarily is to generate income to fund the charitable activities. So rather than just sort of we've got some money, let's spend it, it's much around making sure that the TSA is going to be around in the long term, and how do we best use those reserves to generate income to fund the charitable activities. And it's around ensuring that long-term stability that Francis touched on earlier and might come back to a little bit later. The investment policy, we want to make sure those reserves are invested with appropriate risk return trade-off. So it's no good that money just sort of sitting in cash, being earning a very low rate of interest and being eroded by inflation. But equally, we don't want to take unnecessary risk by investing it inappropriately. So both of those two, reserves policy and investment policies, a lot of work's gone into them, been signed off by the board, and also now hopefully they're communicated a lot better in the new annual report. So very ambitious start, a lot of work gone into turning the annual report from a sort of what was frankly a very dry document to a much sort of more interesting read, hopefully, and better communicating the activities and outcomes. So the investment policies and reserves policies described in there to hopefully give you a feel about what we're doing and why we're doing it. As part of working on that financial strategy, it became apparent that really we needed better accounting services. So at certain points, organizations grow out of their sort of accountants, and it seemed the appropriate time to move on. So again, a lot of work went into looking around and finding some accountants to work with and transitioning across to those. As part of that process, and simply due to the amount of income in 2024 that we'll look at in a minute, we undertook an audit of the accounts. One of that triggered actually a slight change in treatment of some items. So effectively the audit and the new accountant said we'd treat some items in a slightly different way. The most material of those is how we treat some of the income coming in to the organisation, and we'll see in a second that we've actually looked back and restated some previous years and sort of moved some income from some years to the other. So I'll show you the effect of that, just so you can see the continuity from previous years. So yeah, next slide, please. Okay, so that sort of takes us back to working backwards through our timeline here, having a look at what's happened in 2024 in terms of income and costs. So yeah, next slide, please. Brilliant. So headline income. First off, I'll just deal with that restatement. So as I said, working with the new accountants, we're slightly treating income in a slightly different way. And what that means is we've gone back and restated the 2023. So you'll see on the slide there, there's I've got a sort of pale blue bar, which I don't know if whoever's got the mouse can point that out. There we go, that one there, perfect. So that was the number that I talked about last year. So we had just over £360,000 worth of income. Under the sort of new approach to income, we've actually restated that at just over 511,000. So some income that was received or we were expecting to receive in 2023, but got in 2024. So it's sort of reflects where it sat. That income is now dropping into 2023 at 511,000. And then you can see there at the end, the final bar last year, 2024's income, just over 656. So as you can see, if that extra income that is now in 2023 had been in 2024, 2024 would have been even higher. And actually, what this restatement does is it actually makes the growth in income a little bit more even and sort of less lumpy, which we tend to get with sort of legacies, etc. So it's a sort of perhaps a nicer progression of the income flow. So the dark blue lines are the sort of official figures now in terms of the income. And so you can see that there's been a nice gradual increase from 2022 to 23, now to 24. And we've seen increases across donations, legacies, and grants. Great. Next one. So if we move on and look at expenditure, so same thing, working with the accountants, slight change in some of the how we treated some of the expenditure, but not to the same degree as the income. So again, you'll see there, just for continuity's sake, we've got the sort of slightly grayed out bars there for blue for income and the orange for expenditure. So the restated numbers there are income of just over 511,000 and costs of just over 302,000 in 2023 now. And in 2024, the income's gone up, and as has the cost base. And that was planned. So that reflects increased spending on research that Pooja was just talking about. Sort of strategic decision to increase the fundraising team, and higher spending on care and support for families. So what that leaves us with, if we take the net position, so the income less the expenditure, so that gives us the sort of dark green line, or it is green on my screen. Yeah, dark green line there. We can see the net position. Again, the restated figure was for 2023 about £36,000. Actually, restated now, that's just over 208,000, and sort of almost a very similar number. I mean, it's gone down slightly compared to the restated number, but again, say it's just purely a matter of moving stuff around. A slight decrease in overall profit relative to the restated numbers, but certainly not material. Nothing that we're worried about. In particular, as you know, if we look at the increase from 36 to 208 to 188, it's a substantial increase in the charities funds over the last 2 years if we take them as a whole. The other thing that's in there is nice healthy investment gains in 2024, so £51,000 of investment gains compared to 22,000. And looking ahead, hopefully, barring the bursting of an AI bubble towards the end of the year, we'd expect to see some nice healthy returns in this financial year as well. Brilliant, thank you. Next one, Luke. So where that leaves us in terms of the accounts, so these numbers are in the accounts, so feel free to take a look and dive in a little bit deeper. More than happy to answer any questions, but you'll see there the headline numbers that I've just shown on the graph of net income of 188 for 2024, and then taking away the expenditure, give us the total funds carried forward there of just over £1 million. Brilliant, thank you. So overall, total funds have increased. Again, so just showing the restated funds there, so you can see the difference. So just for sort of continuity with last year's AGM, total funds in 2023 were about 888,000. If we restated that, allowing for, say, the extra income that we pulled into 2023, it's just over £1 million, and we end up in 2024 with about 1.3 million. And just as a reminder there, those reserves are being held to generate income. They're being invested to generate income for the charitable activities and ensure longer term stability. So making sure the charity is going to be around for as long as possible. Okay, and just in summary, just so you can see where some of the money goes, the graph there on the left is showing how some of our expenditure is split. So for every pound, roughly a third going to family care and support, a third going to research and advocacy, and a third being spent on raising funds, with a little sliver being spent on governance. And just to sort of even things out, we've looked at the last 2 years in terms of sort of seeing how much we spend on fundraising versus how much we raise in income. And for every pound spent, we're raising about £4.60 in fundraising, which is sort of above the sort of industry average Luke, which is about 1 to 4, I think. So it's pretty healthy in terms of the effectiveness of the fundraising there. And I think, yeah, so just to finish off, that takes us to 2025 to 27. So looking forward from a financial point of view, yeah, we want to continue to generate that income, use the reserves to help top up sort of income raised from other sources, and make sure that we've got those reserves there to protect ourselves from any unforeseen circumstances. But equally, they're there for potential opportunities as well if they crop up for research, etc. There we go. So yeah, guess we're taking any questions later.
We will take questions afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Simon. That was really comprehensive, and even I understood it. So hopefully everybody did. So we will move on now to the voting. We're doing well in terms of time, and so if we move on to the next. Yes, the next slide. Thank you very much. So I think first of all, just want to mention Martin Short, who is leaving us as a trustee. I very much hope that Martin is on the call because we owe him a huge debt of thanks. So Martin first engaged with the TSA 38 years ago. And he was originally on a subcommittee, which was, he tells me, was apprenticeship for being proposed for membership of the board. He joined the board about 20 years ago. He was chair between 2013 and 2018 and vice chair either side of that. And in fact, I remember when I was invited to become a trustee, it was Martin who gave me a call to talk me through what that might mean. Obviously, the charity has developed hugely in his time, and he has been an enormous asset and one of the reasons why the charity is in such good shape today. So we owe you a real debt of thanks. Thank you, Martin, and you will be very much missed, but I hope you use the time that we give you back very profitably. So, next slide, we move on to our elections. And so we have two current trustees, Jane Rogers and Dr. Chris Kingswood, who are standing for re-election. And at this point, Luke, I hope you're going to share a poll, and we'd ask everybody to vote to say whether they feel, first of all, Jane is fit.
Yeah, hopefully people are. Oh, I can see people voting now. Yep.
Yep, great.
So yes, we should say Jane is a much loved and well respected member of the TSC community. She has done a lot for us in the past over many years. Many of you will know Jane, and Jane is also a healthcare professional as well. So gets the view from being part of the community, but then also the clinical side as well. I'll just give people another minute or so, a few seconds. And yeah, looks like that is great. Thank you.
Yes, marvelous.
So we will go on then. So the next one is to re-elect, if thought fit as trustee, Dr. Chris Kingswood. So once more, many of you will know Dr. Kingswood from his incredible background with the TSC community, consultant nephrologist at the St. George's TSC clinic, also TSA trustee for many years, and well loved and well respected. I'll just give it another bit of time. Great, I can see. I think most people have voted, so that is also through. I'm happy to keep talking to go through the remainder of the votes, and then
That would be great, Luke. Thank you very much. Okay.
So these next two, the first one is to give us the means to appoint Griffin Accountancy, who are our accountants, as our independent examiners next year, which just means that they look through the accounts to make sure that everything is as they should be. So I can hopefully launch this one. Hang on 1 second, please. Yeah, thank you. Hopefully you all had that. So the Griffin are our current accountants. They offer us a lot of support. And I know Pooja and I both do give our genuine thanks to Griffin for everything that they do. So I'll just give it a bit of time. I would encourage everyone to vote who's on the call, because otherwise we may not be able to meet the quorum, the requirements of this. So I'll just give people a bit more time. We have moved from a different accountant to Griffin recently, and they have been excellent. So thank you.
Luke, I think I inadvertently ended the poll. Could you redo that one?
Okay, no problem. Let's go back. Relaunch. Yeah, if everyone will kindly go ahead and redo that again. We're sorry for that. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, everyone. I think that's everyone there. Great. So the last one for us is to authorise trustees to determine the remuneration of the independent examiners. Essentially, just means that we can make sure that Griffin appears, and I can tell you they're very competitive in terms of what they offer and the value that they give. So yeah, I'll just give people some time there. Yeah, so people wait. Yeah, and that's great. Thank you. Thank you all. So I can confirm that all those were successful. So they all went through. The trustees were re-elected. Griffin were appointed, and we can determine the remuneration. Trustees can determine the remuneration of Griffin as our independent examiners. So we are at the point now where we have time for questions. Now we have encouraged people before this call to bring some in. So if you do have any, do put them in the chat, or if you raise your virtual hand, then we can do that as well. We do have a few already. I'm just going to briefly stop sharing so I can get them up to make sure I don't get them wrong, because that wouldn't be very good. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and start with some of the questions we've already been asked. So one of them was regarding the TSA helpline. And the question we got was the numbers using the helpline have not significantly increased over the last year, and yet a further advisor was appointed. Does this suggest the strategy is to increase take-up of people using the helpline? So there's a few things in there. So I can tell you that we definitely want people to use the support line. So please do, obviously. We do put a lot of work into that. We have recently been able to launch the support line on WhatsApp as well. So it's a new way for people to interact and get the information and the support that they need. The numbers on the helpline are increasing, but not significantly. And I think part of that is perhaps because our information provision is getting a little bit better in other areas. So it may well be that the better we do in some areas, it means that there's less of a pull on the support line. And I should also say that we haven't actually appointed additional staff. So the new member of the team who did join, the new support line individual, joined after someone else left. So that is why that person came in. And the support line itself is only one area of everything that the team who are on the support line do. They do an awful lot across the TSA, whether that's broader support and information, events, things behind the scenes, a lot of clinical work as well. So that is actually why we moved away from calling them support line advisors. They used to be, but then we changed the title to support and information manager, for example, is one of them. So hopefully that answers the question. You can see we've got another one. So Marsha has kindly asked, I think this may be one for yourself, Francis, or may actually be one for Chris. I can see Chris is on the call as well, but I'll put it to Francis first. So what is the latest research on reducing the growth of cysts in the kidneys in TSC?
So I will give that a go. But if we have Chris is the kidney doctor, so if Chris is on the call and doesn't mind answering, then I'll invite him to come in. So I think, Marsha, you're probably referring to, are you referring to the angiomyolipomas rather than the cysts? Because people with tuberous sclerosis will develop these benign tumors in the kidneys, angiomyolipomas or AMLs for short, as well as cysts. It's the angiomyolipomas that tend to grow and that we treat with these drugs, which we collectively call mTOR inhibitors. And that we have a treatment clinic with treatment clinics around the country using mTOR inhibitors very successfully in management of those tumors. So for those, we have a good treatment. It's not a cure; it's a treatment, and it in the overwhelming majority of people, they control the growth, but in particular, they reduce the risk of those bleeding. And in our group of patients being treated at St George's, we have not had a bleed amongst, I think we're up to 140 people that we're treating, and none of them have had a bleed since they've started that treatment. So in terms of future directions, so Pooja mentioned the metformin trial, which I personally am very excited about, but metformin is a drug that is well tolerated, very cheap. It's used for diabetes, but it also has uh, activity as an mTOR inhibitor as well. So this trial is going on, led by our colleagues down in Bristol, Bath, and so we hope we are looking for centres around the country to join that trial. There is also some, basic science work going on as well to develop alternative treatments for well, looking for things that don't just stop the growth, but would actually, potentially either prevent them happening in the first place or actually get rid of them completely. So that would be the ultimate aim. And of course, then the other aspect of tuberous sclerosis is people do get these cysts, these fluid-filled spaces in the kidneys, and they are rather more difficult to treat, but are not usually associated with such significant problems. However, I'm going to invite Chris to come in and either correct anything that I've said or give you a bit more detail on, particularly with regards to management of cysts. Chris, are you there?
Yes, I
Yes,
am. Yes. Can you
lovely.
hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yes, regarding cysts, there are two main types of cysts in TS. There's simple cysts just due to the TS gene defect. And then there's polycystic kidney disease, which occurs in about 4% of people with TS, in addition to TS. The polycystic kidney disease is another genetic disorder. The TS gene on chromosome 16 is next door to the polycystic kidney disease gene. And if some people have a deletion across both genes, so they have both disorders. If you have polycystic kidney disease gene, it can present at any age, but it often presents younger than in people with just PKD and no TS. And we now know quite a bit about treatment. We know that in animals, if you treat them with an mTOR inhibitor before the cysts develop, that can prevent them. But in adults who already have cysts, the mTOR inhibitors aren't very effective. There is another drug called tolvaptan, which slows the growth of the cysts and is very useful and used for everyone with PKD who's is more severely affected. The most important thing with that is blood pressure control. In fact, the most important thing with any kidney disease is blood pressure control. So that's something for everyone with a kidney issue to monitor and treat. If you have good blood pressure control with polycystic disease, that radically alters the outcome. If you then add in tolvaptan for people who aren't doing as well, that radically alters it again. So that applies to whether you've got TS or not. So that's helpful. It's not an entire cure though, so we're still searching for other drugs that will help. With simple cysts, we know that mTOR inhibitors, again, with simple cysts, have an effect in infancy. Not so much when people get older, but the simple cysts don't really cause much in the way of trouble. They might make people a bit more prone to have high blood pressure, but they don't affect kidney function. They don't tend to bleed, and so they're not an issue that we worry about. We know that 25% of people with TS do have simple kidney cysts, but it's the AMLs that are the big issue. I hope that answers your question.
And I think, Marsh, you've also asked about how people would join the clinical trials. So I think the best way is if you are, or whoever you're asking on behalf of is attached to a tuberous sclerosis clinic, you're seen in a tuberous sclerosis clinic, they are all will be linked in potentially with the trial. So they won't actively be recruiting necessarily, but they would know which clinics are being recruiting. The TSA also will be able to direct you towards the sites that are recruiting. As far as I know, Chris, they're not yet recruiting, are they?
So the newer
Metformin.
treatments that are in metformin, no, they're not.
Yeah,
No,
no.
and other
Good.
newer treatments are in the pipeline, are still haven't started clinical trials, but treatment with everolimus and treatment with tolvaptan are established clinical practice, so any kidney unit can prescribe those.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Marsha, for the question. So yeah, we did have a few more which I'll go through. There is one that I think is more fitting for after the genetics chat, so we'll hold on to that one. There were a couple more. We did have the question. I think Pooja is probably better suited than me to answer this. Is the TSA funding any new research projects?
Yes, we are. We've actually, as I mentioned, refreshed our research strategy this year, and we've also launched 2 grant rounds. So one is a seed corn grant round to stimulate new studies, and one is to support a registry project. So we're looking forward to the grant rounds are both open. We've started receiving applications from the researchers. Um, our research committee, which is made up of experts from across the globe and people living with TSC, will help us decide which studies to fund in line with our own research strategies. So watch this space. We'll be sharing the good news about new research that we're funding hopefully by February, March. So yes, we are funding new research after a gap stop of a few years.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you for that question as well. So there's just one more, and then we can go into the genetics talk that I know everyone will be keenly waiting for. So this was a question regarding the team makeup at the TSA. So the TSA has grown the fundraising team. Last year we did. Yes, we did. Why aren't you focusing more on supporting research roles? Well, ultimately, it's a really good question to ask. I'm glad someone has. It's an extremely challenging time for the UK's charity sector right now, in particular for charities of our size. And although we do have healthy reserves now, we need to look forward and anticipate what might happen in the future. Now, income more broadly is getting harder to find because it's a more expensive world out there for everyone, and that includes charities. As a result, fundraising is an investment. It's not a cost. It's an investment. So you will have seen from Simon's slides that the money that we put in, we get more out. So the money that we invest in fundraising, we get more out of it. So by investing in fundraising, it means we can do things such as what Pooja's just covered there in research and the really great things we're going to be doing in support and information as well.